Hello, everybody. Hello, hello. Double salute. Hello. How are you all? I hope you're well. Bear with me. Yeah, that's a little better. Hold on. Sorry, I'm still setting up. It's been a little while since I've been able to do a live stream. I have been traveling, and I'll talk a little bit about that. Went to Hawaii and Japan, and then we had some personal drama. My wife got a little sick. She's probably watching from the hospital right now, if I had to guess. Let me give some shout outs to folks here. But what we'll be doing tonight is drawing. I got some new brush pens in Japan that I wanted to play with, and I just thought it would be fun to draw tonight and catch up with folks that watch the show. So welcome to Comic Tropes After Dark. Let's see. Hello, Christopher. Chrissy is better than stable, so that's good. Hello, Rick. Hello to Alt Shift Nerd. That's a fun name. Hello, Sergio and GT Key Comic. Brunson, always nice to see you. Great artist. Derek, lovely to see you. And Actual Dracula. Hello to Iron Shell. Hello to, is it Malik? And then Pete. And Ultimate Joshy Washiness. There's a delay, so if I'm not catching you all, it's just a live stream delay. I'm going to be adding another camera here to show what I'm drawing. So give me just a moment, and I'll have this up and ready to go. But we've got the live chat there so that we can take questions and talk about comics or art, movies, just new stuff that's up. Extra camera is what I want to add. I want to add this one. Okay, let's see here. Nope, not that way. Let's see. Add to stage. How do I... Oh, that's not bad. I know I've got a better camera here somewhere. I'm trying to figure out which layout I want. Whee! I'm just jumping around. Well, I'll leave that there for just a second. And then I'm going to move this over there. Get my pens in order. Sorry, a little slow start. I've returned. Oh, there's Chrissy. I'm excited to hear about your trip. Yeah, because Chrissy didn't really get to appreciate all of it. Yeah, it was dramatic, but we're back home. Thank you. Yep. I don't know about King, but thank you. I'll take it. Thank you. I know we both appreciate that. Doing all right. Let's see. The Schuster estate is trying to block the Superman movie in Canada, UK, Ireland, and Australia. Yeah, they kind of do things like that whenever there's like a big Superman release because, you know, they can basically hold things up, and DC will usually cave and give them another settlement. So, and you know what? You know, maybe they deserve it, right? I don't know. They've negotiated some good settlements in the past, and DC hasn't always done the right thing by the Siegels or the Schusters. So it's tricky. I'm just trying to find a certain layout here where the art is big and I am small, because I thought I'd created a good one. Well, definitely not that. Huh. Not that one? Well, let me create a new layout real quick. I'm going to put me here like this. And then I'm going to put another item here. I know that this is really exciting for everybody. There. That should work. Wait, it didn't do it. You guys can't see the drawing yet, right? I'm just double checking. Can you now? Can you see the artwork? And I'm going to see if I can just focus this a little better. Right about that. Okay, thanks everybody. Appreciate it. I don't really know exactly what these brushes were. I'll explain why our trip in Japan was so quick in a moment. Not in excruciating detail, but a little bit. And it just meant that while I did get to go to a art supply store that I really like and get a few things for myself, I didn't have lots of time. Up against the clock a little bit. I'm just going to test this fine liner that I picked up. Oh, yeah, that has a great, super precise. I like this super precise line. I love it. There's a art supply store that Chrissy and I both like in Shinjuku. That's a part of Tokyo if you haven't been. And it's called Sakaido. It's got several floors of any kind of art supply you could imagine, honestly. And one of the floors is dedicated to manga. There's just screen tones and nibs, quills, parallel pens, brushes, brush pens, whiteout pens, all sorts of things. Reference books, pencils. Sorry, I hit the mute button. My apologies. Anyway, yeah, no, it was I fixed it. Sorry about that, everybody. Sorry about that. I feel like that isn't appearing super good resolution, but whatever. Where to start with like telling any sort of story about a trip? I guess what I'll say is so Chrissy and I had been scheduling a trip for a long time. It was going to be a 2-part trip. Well, it was a 2-part trip. We went to Hawaii for a week where my father had rented a house on Oahu. And we had a great time there. Everything went well. Got to see my family, met David Nakayama and hung out with him for the day. He's a great artist. So many great covers. We talked about process. We had lunch. We went to a comic shop together. That was really, really awesome. It's just kind of dark lighting, Chrissy says. Okay. Let me turn this on and see if that's any better. Give it a sec. That's probably a little better, right? Yeah. Anyway, so we had a great time there. And we were both doing well. Chrissy enjoyed the pool especially. But then we were going to do like 10 days in Japan. And as soon as we got there, I'm not going to go into extreme detail because this is more Chrissy's story to share. But she has something called anemia that popped up. And what that meant was really low hemoglobin, which is the oxygen level in your system. And after a few days of just resting in the hotel room, we decided to take her to the hospital there in Japan. And she was admitted to the hospital in Japan. That was a little stressful because, while they have a translator, she wasn't available all the time. So, we both had to speak as much Japanese as we knew. It's just mentally exhausting when you're not great at it. I think I've gotten to a light conversational level. I can talk about simple things. I've got a good amount of verbs and adjectives so that I can figure out some sort of way of making, what I want, what I need, this, that, there, here, important words I've got. But it's exhausting mentally to do that. And then we got her to a point where she was stable, and we decided to rush home because the doctors there were telling us, look, if you don't go now, we're going to have to figure this out. And once we're in that stage, things are pretty serious. And we think it could take at least a month. Well, that would be very expensive. So we rushed home. We got home safely, fortunately, and Chrissy's been in the hospital. And as of today, she got out of the critical care unit. So that's a step forward. We just don't know what's happening. So it's been very stressful for both of us. But she's stable. She's here in the chat room. So that's nice. It meant we cut our trip short, and Chrissy didn't really get to enjoy anything about Japan, which is sad. She deserves it. She's worked so hard this year. We saved up money and blocked out time. There's a lot of stuff that we felt like we deserved an actual vacation, and I feel like Chrissy still deserves that. So I'm just a little disappointed, and there's an expense to it too. But I will say a few good things about the Japanese healthcare system. First of all, if you take an ambulance here in America and you have health insurance, I would say that in general you could expect to be spending between $500 to $1,000 would be, depending on maybe deductibles and stuff. But I think that you would spend something close to that on an ambulance here. Does anyone want to guess what an ambulance costs you as a foreigner in Japan? Do you guys want to just put out a guess as to how much that costs? Because I'll just give you a hint. It's low. It's quite low. Again, here in America, I would say probably between 500 to 1,000 would be fairly typical. It could be higher, just to be clear. It could be higher. I don't think you're likely to get less than 500 here, though. There's a delay, so I'm giving it a moment for people if they want to throw in a guess to see what we've got. Starting to see them. Let's see. I've got a guess for $25. I was going to say 10 grand. Here in the U.S., it probably could be 100. You guys are all guessing reasonable things for there. 20,000. I'm talking about in let's see. My father had an ambulance ride a few years ago that cost something like $6,500, and that can happen. Moritaka, you probably know, and it is 50, just to be clear, $50. And honestly, they may even just write that off once you're admitted. But $50 basically to get to the hospital. And when we got there, the doctors are trying to set reasonable expectations. They're saying like, hey, you don't have health insurance here. Technically, we have travel insurance, but it's a reimbursement program, and only up to a certain amount. And they're telling us, hey, this could start at like 10 million yen. I'm like, okay, that's 10 million yen is like maybe $60,000, or just ballparking it real fast. And I'm like, okay, we've got health insurance up to that, and they're like, or it could be up to like 3 times that amount. And you're like, yikes, that is a lot. But we've got no choice. I mean, this is life and death stuff, so you just have to do it. It ultimately basically was something closer to $5,000 out of pocket. Now, if you were a resident, it's free. $5,000, and we got a lot of care for that. A lot. I won't go into all of it, but I was pretty impressed, honestly. I was also impressed with how fast, the care was. Definitely faster than here in America. But I'll also say, they didn't really solve anything. They didn't find the underlying cause or anything like that. And, were the facilities, I would say that they were clean and they had modern equipment, but they were kind of old too, if that makes sense. It was an interesting experience. It was an interesting experience, but not one I'd wish for somebody to have. Anyway, so we're back and just dealing with that now. Getting back into the swing of things personally, going back to work and stuff. Yeah. So that's what's new with me. Hawaii was fantastic. Just paradise. Japan is one of my favorite places, and I was really looking forward to exploring more together, doing things with my wife, spending some quality time together. We've both been working very hard throughout 2024, and I don't know. It was just something I was really looking forward to doing, and while I got to explore some, it was all by myself. I didn't get to do anything together, and we left early. Yeah, Mandela Butterfly points something out. It's now Black History Month, and that's, just to be clear, why I decided to sketch out War Machine and Blade. I thought, hey, makes sense to draw some black characters. I'll think of like some of my favorite ones, and I really like both War Machine and Blade. I think that they're characters that are cool, and I just think both of them, though, could benefit from some more really good stories. Blade even more so, because like the Blade movie character, I would argue, was sometimes an improvement over what we've got in the comics, with the one exception of, I'll say, his original appearances in Tomb of Dracula, where it was like, a team book. Those were pretty awesome. He worked really well in that setting. But on his own, I don't feel like I've come across like one of the comics where I'm like, that's the definitive Blade story. Maybe we'll get there at some point soon. That would be cool. Oh, Luke Cage is awesome. Yes, love Sam Wilson. He's great. I think Marvel has a pretty good amount of black superheroes. Yeah. I can't think of one where I'd say like that was exceptional. I would say that the most recent one, just before the Blood Hunt event, written by, I want to say, Brian Edward Hill, was actually pretty darn cool. Probably needed just some more room. War Machine, I would say that like the character of Rhodey is awesome. I mean, he was Iron Man before he was ever War Machine, and it was awesome. Like he was a great addition to the Iron Man comic, and I think that you can point to books like Armor Wars, and he has an important role to fill there. He's got a lot of great stories there, and I think that War Machine has been a real solid addition to the Marvel Universe. Only ever going to be one Blade, and maybe that's true. Thank you. I spent a while today coming up with the figure construction work because I can't draw very well while I talk to all of you. So laid out the figure work, light boxed it to get a nice clean thing for inking, and I'm just working on inks while I play with you guys. I love Stalker. I think he's one of the best G.I. Joe characters. Larry Hama treats him so well. Yeah. Black Panther's fantastic. Fantastic. No, this is very much based, to be clear, on the MCU Iron Man armor, which I will argue was super close to the comics. But specifically, I did look at the Mark II War Machine armor. Maybe. I think Eddie March was always intended to sort of be written out. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think he was ever intended to be a long-term character, whereas Jim Rhodes was definitely an ongoing cast member that added a new dynamic, and it was really cool. Yeah, the Sticky Fingers, the rapper, played Blade on the TV show version. Anyway, sorry, I got distracted, and I should keep drawing. So you're fairly caught up with, the idea of like what I'm drawing and what the trip was. But there were some good parts. Like there were some great parts. I will say that having a conversation, or a lot of conversations with David Nakayama was a real treat. He really has some fantastic ideas on 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 art theory and on what makes for a good cover. He's not just throwing ideas out there. He's putting a lot of thought into them. And I think he's done some absolutely brilliant covers. I think that cover work is very much a different set of skills than internal panels, sequential art. But super valuable. I mean, it's what sells somebody on buying a comic. And I think that we're getting to a point where it's more and more common to have both a cover artist and an interior artist, and not always the same person. I think it's become very, very common. And I get it, that it's a different set of skills. Some people are great, but yeah. Oh, yeah, I remember. Charlotte Jones was the police officer, right? She was from that original X Factor run. That was a good character. Yeah. Hey, Dave. Christopher Comic Tropes the Third. Yes, there were two more before me before this one finally took. I hope you're well, and I hope everyone here is doing fine to fine plus. Dave is trying to give me a catchy nickname because I called him David Davenger, and it took off a little bit. So his channel is West Coast Davengers, but he is now David Davenger. I have been doing a bunch of heavy research for the next Comic Tropes, which, as long as everything continues apace, right now, what I'm going to talk about is the original Spider-Man manga by Ryoichi Ikegami, very famous for books like Crying Freeman, Sanctuary, Heat, a bunch of others. Spider-Man was an early one for him, and I'm really going to talk about, what's cool about it, and also why it kind of failed. Because it really wasn't a success, to be clear. It went for a little over a year, but that's not very long. It was definitely intended to be bigger. And I think it's an interesting comic. Kind of failed twice, actually, because they also did bring it over here, translated, and again, it didn't do well. So, yeah, it's an interesting story to me to talk about. Why would Spider-Man not translate to another country, at least not to Japan, because I would argue in Europe, our superhero comics do pretty darn well. And they've done translations and adaptations, and, it's always done pretty well. But trying it in Japan, too much of a cultural difference. Didn't really work. I did not locate my Jaws manga yet. I know I will someday. Because it's in the house. It's in my house, and it's not like, so it's findable. Chrissy and I have like a couple times, sort of organized our house by basically just taking things and putting them in boxes and just saying like, hey, if you're not using it, it gets boxed up. And I'm sure that that's what happened. So I will find it someday. I will find it for all of you. Because I'd love, for that, once I finally locate it, and by the way, it's not online. If it was online, great. I can just look at, I can always use the digital version. But it's not. A few pages are, but not the whole thing. So I need to find that. And what I want to do is again, talk about cultural differences, because there's a Jaws adaptation comic here in America. And there was like an issue of Creepy that did a shark story that was very similar. And over in England, they did a version on their own called Hookjaw. And then there's the Jaws manga adaptation. And I thought that each of them are very interesting to see like what scares somebody. When you're trying to be scary about like the same idea, an animal, how do different like societies represent that? What is their core fear there? I was flipping through the last 2 books of the Spider-Man manga right now, and the OBI has an Eric Larson Spidey on it. Oh, you're talking about the version that was released here that went through like issues 1 through 31 or something? Or are you talking somehow about... Yeah, you have to be, because it came out in the 60s. Eric Larson wasn't drawing back then. Let's see. I thought it was less of a Spider-Man doesn't translate to a Japanese audience and more the writer doesn't want to do this superhero stuff. I don't know. I wouldn't quite characterize it as that. I sort of understand that argument, but I wouldn't quite characterize it as that. Anyway. So I'm always trying to find an angle where, you know, you can really dig deep into the comic and not just recap it and say, this is what looks cool to me. This is what happened in the story. I want to find an angle about what somebody did that was different and it either worked or it didn't work. That's what interests me. And it's always going to ultimately just be my personal argument of what works or what didn't. So, you know, sometimes I'm wrong. And sometimes my opinion even changes. I think that, like, there's some older episodes, you know, I don't have time to rewatch them, but I bet that my opinion has changed on a few things where I'd go, I don't think I had the right take on that. I adore the theme song to the live action Spider-Man show. It's so good. It's so good. Let's see. Do you ever collect your finished art or sketches and print them in a book for sale? No, I've never done anything like that. Maybe I should. I don't know. I don't know. It's something I guess I could think about. One thing I did spend quite a bit of time on was refining a comic book idea I'm writing. I already had the characters and the story, you know, acts 1, 2, and 3, but I didn't feel it was quite complete because I didn't quite feel that there was a character arc for like the main character. I wanted something that sincerely changed the character from beginning to end of a story, that really would have only happened if this specific, you know, set of events happened to the character. And I wanted it to have personal stakes. I wanted it to you know, really mean something to the character on a deep level. And I think I cracked all of that while I've been on my trip. So that feels good to have like cracked a bunch of this. So the big next step is finding the exact perfect artist for it. But I will. So I feel like I've got a really good story now. Inker Drew Garachi, it says, inking is basically tracing. Is he being modest? Because he's being modest. He's being modest. He's a good inker. I've seen his work, and I think he adds quite a bit. Yeah, he's worked with a lot of people that have become big names. I think he's being modest. Who are my biggest art influences? You know, I think it's changed over time, Brunson. I would say that when I was, you know, maybe in my teens, that some of my big influences were what was popular at the time. Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane. And then, like, pretty soon after that, it's sort of shifted to Frank Miller, Alex Toth, and Will Eisner. And I think, like, you know, in the modern day, it's become a lot of manga artists, like Naoki Urasawa. I'm really enjoying the stuff right now by Yukinobu Tatsu in Dandadan. And Daniel Warren Johnson has become a big influence. Did I say Stuart Immonen? He's definitely become a big influence for me. So it's definitely shifted over the years. But I think you always retain some of, like, you know, your influences, even if you make adjustments to how you draw. I think that you retain those influences because any style, I think it was Eric Larson who may have said this. It may have been somebody else originally, but I know Eric Larson said it. Like, that style is really just a collection of your mistakes, you know, because otherwise it would just look perfect. So style is your mistakes. And my goal is just to make sure that they're my mistakes and that I'm not just copying the way somebody else draws and picking up all of their mistakes and adding them to my own. But you can definitely be influenced by things other than style. I think the more you look at art, the more you start to see decisions for expression and composition and things like that that influence how a page is laid out or how you approach a piece of art as compared to just trying to make it look the same. You go like, okay, I'm not trying to draw quite like that person, but I'm going to take something that I see them doing, you know, with shapes, or the way that they represent motion. Like, I'm not going to do that exactly, but I like something about how they approach the art. Inking is enormously complicated, and I'll be honest, I really think it's a dying art in comics. I hate to say that, but it really is true in the sense that we still ink our comics. Well, less now that a lot of people can work digitally, but it's really less common for comics to have both a penciler and an inker. A lot of artists are inking their own work, and you know, maybe they do 6 issues and then they get a break to catch up if they're still doing an ongoing thing. It's just less common. There are still inkers out there, and I'm glad there are, because I think that there's a lot that they add and that they can focus on those specific skills. Rendering, textures, certainly shading, and just decisions on how to pull things like foreground and background elements out, which a penciler isn't necessarily focused on. And I miss the days when you could see a lot more differences depending on who was inking something. You know, when I was growing up, you'd go, okay, Klaus Janson inked this, Tom Palmer inked that, Chick Stone did this, and there's dozens and dozens more. But, you know, like, there was a difference to the way, say, Scott Williams inked Jim Lee as compared to, say, the way Jim Lee inked Jim Lee. And I miss seeing some of those changes, because I think that it would inspire some of the artists to draw things a little differently, because they pick up, like, ways that their art could be enhanced in certain ways. You know, they'd go, oh, look at what, you know, this inker did to my art that I wouldn't have thought about. And I miss that. Are most artists physically inking now, then rescanning, or going completely digital? I would say, yeah, most are still doing it on paper. And you know what's nice about that, in one level, is that there is a secondary market there. You can sell your original art. If Dave is still in the chat, he just went to a convention that's nothing but original art, the Original Art Expo in Florida. And, you know, as page rates have, I won't say have necessarily gone down, but have certainly stagnated over the last couple decades. They have not increased with time, it's important for artists to get those, secondary or tertiary sources of income. Having a YouTube channel, having their original art to sell. It's important to making ends meet. Yeah, John Romita Jr. has had a lot of different inkers, and some of them really emphasize the blockiness, and others have softened his line work. It's really cool. Inspired by Tokyo Ghoul. Yeah, I get that. My video premieres tomorrow. So much art. Sarah Jane Smith. Probably my overall favorite companion in Doctor Who. Probably. There's a bunch that I sincerely love. Ace was another personal favorite of mine, but Sarah Jane Smith was awesome. I miss Elizabeth Sladen. I wish she was still with us. Any loot to show off? A little bit. If anybody wants me to pause from this, I could at least show. I got a few gachapon. You guys probably know I just love some of the. I love small things, I guess. So I did pick up some gachapon. I could show which ones I picked up. Pretty silly, cutesy, weird stuff. But I just feel like it's a good value. All the small things. Show them off. Sure. I could do that because I'm not going to be able to finish this inking almost no matter what, just to be clear. I'm making a decision here, by the way, that I'm not sure if I'm going to stick with. I'm not always sure if it's a good idea or not to add sort of an invisible halo line between two dark sources. It's like you sort of want to show off the line art, but it isn't necessarily a fair representation of what things look like. So, I've got this little halo right now that I've done between War Machine and Blade, but I may reverse that decision and just connect all the blacks. I just don't know if I trust myself enough to have the line art pop without that distinction. Does that make sense? What I'm talking about? Let's see. I do still have the Gachaponi machine. Yeah, I just got burned out on mailing stuff. So, yeah. You just did that on a page? What, the halo? I just don't. It feels like when I do that I'm not trusting my own artwork. But here, let's pause for a minute and we'll just see what kind of things I got. Squid Game blind box. I got that little guy. Not quite a gachapon, but kind of fun. I like Squid Game. I thought season 2 was cool. It's more like half a season, but I liked it. Anyway. Put that here. What else did I get? Oh, I got a couple of these. I got to take this out of the plastic. It's too reflective, isn't it? These are like tiny versions of the Marvel action figures as a keychain. So there's like Venom. There's a Captain America. I got, if you watch this channel, maybe you saw Jim and I cover a Gamera movie. I was very amused at this tiny Gamera action figure, which is Gamera is this massive kaiju. He's like a turtle, but he also can pull his legs in and they can become jets, which doesn't make a lot of sense, but that really cracked me up. Sorry, I'm laughing to myself. I think that's very funny. What else? I don't have to show you all of these. Oh, yeah. David Bowie's definitely big. David Bowie's big everywhere. And I got something from David Bowie in there. This is a keychain, but I just thought that was cute. That reminded me of my childhood. I had one of these when I was a little kid. Ring, ring, ring. Fisher-Price phone. This I need to put batteries in, but when I have the battery, this will make a Japanese train chime and like a warning that the doors are closing when you push each of them. So I need to get batteries for that. Here's a tiny version of the Game of Life. Like a little car. It's in Japanese, but yeah, the Game of Life. Was it in Skinamarink? I don't remember that. You had that phone. Nice. Hey, thanks for the super chat. Super appreciated right now. That's really nice. Get all these toys out of the way. All these toys. Hanging in there. Grateful Mad 3. Grateful Mediad. Oh, here's a good one. This is a Honda Beat. Didn't last long, but I saw one of these in person while I was in Japan as well. The Honda Beat. Tiny little convertible. It's a pretty cool car. So I got the Honda Beat. Oh, this one I got for Chrissy. That's hers, but it's just like, what do you call it? Crayons. It's crayons. These are just cute. I don't know. I like this stuff. Yup, a Baja Blast. Well, believe it or not, this is a gachapon. It just like came all bunched up in a, but it's Godzilla. You snap them together. But that's Godzilla. I got a couple of those because I got, here's Godzilla Jr. I want to say from the Heisei era. And finally, Mothra, Queen of the Monsters. So those I can't wait to put together. What else? Oh, I got another Venom. So I'll put that to the side, and David Davenger can have that if he wants it because he's local, and I see him on Comic Book Day a lot. So I'll give him that if he wants that. I'll put that to the side. Hey, thanks, Steve. Cold as hell in Slayer Cuse. Stay warm. Ah, that's awesome. Just yesterday, watched your interview with Peach Momo. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching. Tell you what, I need to pause for a minute then because you mentioned her. So, Chrissy is, I told you she got sick in Japan and we had to take her to the hospital. Well, guess who reached out to help? First of all, a lot of people. A lot of people like mentioned, hey, I think I've got a friend in Japan, or, I'm a viewer in Japan if you need me. And that's cool, but I didn't necessarily want to talk to a stranger. It felt like it would just be confusing things. One person I know a tiny bit, Peach's wife, Yo. Yo reached out and said he was willing to take a train into Tokyo if we needed help. Like, just figuring everything out and translating. And ultimately, I didn't feel that I needed that. But I want to say that was incredibly kind. And that really gave me peace of mind. It was lovely to hear well wishes and have people say, like I could probably help, but I didn't know them. And I'm like, I don't know. But it was really, really amazing, because just to be clear, they don't live in Tokyo. Like, it would be a trip for him. And he just reached out and said that he was willing to do that. I'll be honest, I'm almost like tearing up right now thinking about it, because we were very scared at that point. It was right at the beginning, and it was just an incredibly kind offering that like helped relieve me a little. Like, I was like, if things get really bad or confusing, there's somebody here that I know a little bit that said he's willing to come help. And I thanked him, and I'll probably never be able to thank him enough, because it meant a lot. It meant a real lot. And I just want to put that out, like, that Peach and her husband work very, very hard, very, very hard. And that he was willing to do that was pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. It was incredible. Godzilla is in Fortnite? Really? Mothra is the glider? I need to get back to Fortnite. I love that. Yeah. It meant a lot. I record these live streams or do the live streams in my basement. This is my basement, but I record my episodes for Comic Tropes upstairs. I've got a dedicated room for it. Anyway, I hope someday, at a convention or something, I can thank them in person. It feels like, with how popular Peach is, that doesn't feel super likely, but you never know. But when you consider how much they have to do and how much they have on the line, earnings wise, that relies on hard work, it's kind of insane that he was willing to reach out to me like that. And thank you, yo. If you by any chance hear this or hear about it, it means a lot. Yes, I am planning on doing a regular news and comic review live stream on Monday. And I'll tell you, one of the absolute best comics I read in the last couple of weeks was by Brian Michael Bendis. I don't know if you guys read his early stuff when he was doing Torso and Jinx and Goldfish. A relatively early thing he did was called Fortune and Glory, where he just talks about getting into comics, and it's an autobiography. Well, he made a new one called Fortune and Glory the Musical, where he does talk about his brief time working on the Spider-Man musical, but it also talks a lot about breaking into comics. And I just found it absolutely fascinating and interesting. Of course, I love comics, so it's going to have that appeal. But I thought it was really a great, great big story. I really recommend it, and I can't wait to talk about that on Monday. Steve, thank you very much. This is really generous. You don't have to keep super chatting, but I appreciate you a lot. I do. Squad up in Fortnite. My name is Superfly Jedi Guy. Okay. I can actually remember that. Superfly Jedi Guy is memorable. I think, what do I have that on? I think I have that on PlayStation. I know my name on Xbox is Tabloid Cowboy, and I'm trying to remember what it is on, I think on PlayStation I'm Chris the Zombie, but I have to double check. I don't remember. They did manage to turn it off. I've got an episode about Turn Off the Dark too, where I argue, with a few decisions they could have made that profitable, but yeah, they did not make those decisions. Superfly Jedi Guy. I'm just repeating it to myself so that I internalize it. don't think I know Phenomena, to be honest. I think it sounds a little familiar, but I definitely didn't read it. I don't have an Ollie's near me. I've heard that they have some great deals on things. I don't have an Ollie's in Washington. It's not a national chain, I guess. But I've heard that like Ollie's has some really cool stuff. Let's see, what else? Thank you. You talking about Powell's bookstore down in Oregon? Powell's is fantastic. Little bit of a drive for me, so I it's not something I can go to regularly, but Powell's is awesome. I always find at least something there. But I love books. I used to love going with friends to what would you say? Library book sales where they'll tend to like do things like 12 inches for $10 or something like that. They just measure your books, things like that. It was great. I love that stuff. Well, I appreciate the support. Sincerely, thank you. Thank you. I've been having a tough time these past few weeks. Oh, your dad passed away? Watching your show has also been a good way to, so thank you, and to Jim also. Well, my condolences there, Daniel. That does sound tough. That does sound tough. But if you can distract yourself with my show, that makes me happy. Thank you. Is it an Argento film? Dario Argento? Phenomena. I don't think I know that one. Just doing a pair of black Marvel superheroes that I like. Oh, wait. Yeah, Black History Month, exactly. Are you going to eat a bunch of wings and pizza and stuff with a Super Bowl? I always have to work on the weekends, so I'll be at work next week. Is it next week? Wait. It's next week, right? I lost track of a few things because of the trip. Is it the Super Bowl is this coming? Well, not tomorrow, but next week, right? I think I'm right on that. Yeah, I did say that. I did say that. So you can grab that out of context and definitely screw me over somehow. But yeah, that's okay. That could probably be taken out of context too. Okay, thanks, Kim Dog. I appreciate that. So no, I won't really have snacks. Although what I'll say is, having worked on Super Bowl Sunday for the last, I want to say this will either be my 6th or 7th one at work in a row, and a few people will come in to buy a car first thing in the morning on Sunday because they need to or because they don't care too much about the Super Bowl. But at a certain point, it will die off. And I typically can sort of watch the game like from the halftime show through the second half. I'm usually able to watch it on the big screen TV we have in our lobby. Sorry, I just realized I pulled out the plug on my mic. I was just saying I'm usually able to watch from halftime through the second half on like the big screen TV at work in our lobby because it's usually not busy. But I'm not getting paid for that because I'm on commission. That could be fun, but no tailgate party. My condolences, Kim Dog. I don't want to think about dealing with something like that. I'm stressed out, but my condolences. I hope it gets easier. Danger Street. Oh yeah, Human Target. Greg Smallwood's, art in that is insanely good. So good. I like the story too, but honestly, for that, it's all about the art. Just so good. Did that get an Eisner? Trying to remember now. I hope so. It deserved it. Any of you guys watch the art live streams of other artists? You know, there's a lot of artists that do live streams. I like Tyler Crooks and I like Daniel Warren Johnson's. And yesterday's by Daniel Warren Johnson had a really, really cool piece that he was doing of like sort of a Japanese Logan, Wolverine, like punching a ninja with his claws. It looked so good. And he used so many different techniques. You know, he used literal brushes, brush pens, nibs, parallel pens, Posca markers. Ink pulp is so good. So good. One of my favorites. I've been on vacation, so I haven't played Rivals, but I'll get back to it. Smallwood's covers for the new EC stuff has been amazing too. Yeah. He's one of those guys that can definitely do both internal and cover art. You're right, and do it well. Good for you. That's awesome. Mike Hawthorne does? I didn't know that. Yeah, one of the best. But I so admire Daniel Warren Johnson, not just for his ability, but he's organized. He might like push back on that. But what I mean is that he has a workstation with all of these tools available. If you looked at my workstation, it's piles of comics and like art tools spread out. It's not well organized. But when you have it well organized like that, it means you can grab all those different tools and you can create some fantastic effects. It was a really good episode. Thank you, Rami. Wow. Thank you so much. Let's see. Is it me, or are the digital colors, especially early on, don't do justice to the older comic artists like Neil Adams, Walt Simonson, George Perez? I know exactly what you're talking about. At least I think I do. I think that those guys were all evolving as artists in an environment where we were doing flat colors in comics. You know, it was flat colors for the most part, and so they made their art to suit that environment. Also, like at the beginning, digital colors was hit and miss because some people were using way too many effects and gradients and muddying things with too many like dark colors that didn't look good. They might have looked good on screen, but they didn't look good on print. A lot of that are like sort of mid 90s stuff with digital colors is very hit and miss. There are good artists, and then there's some that are playing with too many effects and like really distracting and hiding the artwork. It's crazy. It's really crazy. Comics People is a good podcast. Okay. Oh, sorry that you're tuning in so late. Demolition Man is a blast. You watch Daniel, Finch, Tyrell Cannon. Yeah, there's a lot out there, aren't there? Jose Villarrubia is one of the best out there. Not just in ability, but he's like a teacher. You know, he knows his stuff very well. I don't think he likes me, but I respect him massively. Erwin Pop is great. What are some of my favorite video games? Tetris. Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. I just re-downloaded that, and we'll see if it holds up. I played through it a couple times. What else is great? Grand Theft Auto. Red Dead Redemption. Sorry, what's the one with the spore-based zombies that was just made into a TV show? That's one of my all-time favorites. Both games. I'm forgetting the title of it, but I think you guys know what I'm talking about. Yeah. No, not the Last of Us. Last of Us. Yes. Thank you. Last of Us. Love Last of Us. Love it. Just Konami code. Up, down, left, right. BA select start. I think something like. I might have to double check that, but it's close. What a code. What a memorable code. I'm really inking slowly. I have a hard time talking and drawing at the same time, but I enjoy chatting with all of you. It's good to catch up. It should be a good show on Monday, so I hope you'll tune in. Jim Mafood is currently doing a convention in Greece. Good for him. And I'm just pointing that out because it'll probably be a little while until we hook back up to make another trash movie bonanza. But the Superman 4 one did pretty well, so thank you. It was another one where the studio tried to claim it, and I disputed that, and they fought me on that, so I had to put in an appeal, which is the last step you can take before if they want to fight after that, you can get a copyright strike and get in a lot of trouble. But I was like, no, everything I'm doing here is definitely covered under fair use. Like, if you add up the amount of time that we use and the other, the conversation that we add around the movie and about the comics as well and stuff, I was like, this is fair use. And we won. It's a very frustrating part. I don't know how people that do purely movie or TV podcasts can deal with that. It really burns me out having to fight those appeals. But one nice thing now is that YouTube takes any money that's made and puts it in escrow. They used to just turn it off while you were fighting that. But now they keep collecting it, and they just put it in escrow for whoever wins. No select? Okay. Thanks for the correction. Up, down, left, right, BA. I would say Rob Liefeld doesn't like certain headlines. Does he legit not like me? I don't think he knows who I am, because I've taken pictures with him after he's posted that he doesn't like certain videos and things. I don't think he knows who I am. I respect Liefeld on a lot of ways. I get frustrated sometimes that he hasn't tried to evolve as an artist, my opinion, and he'd fight you on that. And that's fine. I just, but I was a huge fan when I was younger, and I massively admire how much he can do as a marketer. He really sells himself. If he makes a project, it's still going to sell very well. And I think that's incredibly impressive. So I don't think he knows exactly who I am, to be honest. Yeah. Because like I say, I was willing to test to see if he would refuse a photo or anything when I went up to him, and he was smiles and thumbs up and stuff. So yeah. I think that I think what happens with Rob is, he became so successful at such a young age, and he got so much attention. Think of how many millions of comics he was selling when he was still in his 20s. It's so much success to deal with at such a young age. And anytime you're that successful, you're going to get a lot of criticism. And he dealt with an awful lot of criticism. And I think that because it happened when he was still so young and potentially still developing as a person, I think it just made him a very, very defensive against criticism. And I can understand that. That's just my personal speculation. I wouldn't know. I don't know him like as a person, but I can understand it. You know, if you were like in your early 20s and you were massively successful, but like people everywhere were like saying that you were a piece of crap or something, wouldn't that make you defensive like forever? I think it would for me. I think it would for me. I don't think he ever blocked me on Twitter, just to be clear. I don't think he's ever blocked me. I don't think he's banned me from anything, just to be clear. So, you know, do I love his artwork? Not much right now. There's parts of how exciting it is that I respect. I would love to have a conversation with him. I would love to. And I wouldn't just try to like if he was, you know, willing to donate his time, I would not try to do like weird gotcha questions and like, you know, attack him. I mean, I tried to like learn some new stuff about his approach to art and his history, not just like talk, but you know, I'm just saying I would definitely love to have a conversation with Rob. I don't think that's super realistic. I don't think it would ever happen, but I would be willing to. And I would like, I think that we could have a really interesting conversation personally. I think that we would definitely talk about, you know, people just ask about influences and what excites you and what's, you know, what drives your stories. But, you know, I would love to talk to him like in depth, like really drill down and be like, you know, when you're drawing, when you're, you know, do you consider shapes or what do you consider when you're doing a composition for a page? Like, what do you consider? What do you want to look for in a collaborator for, you know, inking specifically? Or what do you want to look for in a collaborator for coloring specifically? What like benefits you? I think that we could have a really interesting conversation. I don't think it'll happen, but I think that we could. Yeah, I've never had any doubt that he loves comics. I've never had any doubt. So we're probably way too different to ever like be friends, but that doesn't mean that I don't hate him or anything weird like that. So I mean I hope he doesn't hate me. Maybe he does. I'm okay with that. I'm not going to win over everybody because I am going to have my opinions on art. If I'm going to do a show about comics, a lot of it is going to eventually be my opinions. I'm going to try to be fair when I do episodes, and that means that I deal with a lot of facts. I'm trying to work in, when I'm talking about something positively, to look up to see if there are common criticisms and address them. I'm trying to add that more to my episodes, but we'll see. I probably can't go a whole lot longer, maybe like 30 minutes or more, but maybe a little more than that. But I can already hear my cats meowing, which means that they're hungry. And so if I don't eventually address that, they will go ballistic. They will go into monster mode. Which just means they will come down here and start knocking stuff over in the background. Which could be good for views, right? I hope they release his work with Alan Moore. That would be cool. That would be really cool. Yeah, I agree. You can see his influences early on, and Perez is no question a big one. I mean, he clearly loved Teen Titans. Clearly. But yeah. Yeah, they'll go full lion out. That's what I'll call it when they go nuts. That what I like about the interviews you do. You talk technicality. The other YouTuber that does that is in the music area. The only other YouTubers that do that in the music area. It's just what interests me. And I mean, if they've got a funny story from like a convention or something like that, trust me, I want to dig that out. I do. I want to dig out like any sort of awkward stories that we can. But yeah, I want to try to drill down into maybe stuff that they haven't even thought of consciously, but like, you know, I love to understand somebody's work process. I think that it's always interesting to learn about anybody's work process for literally any job. You know, you could be any kind of a blue collar worker. And if we could drill down and talk about like, you know, like the hour to hour process of what goes into your job, I think that would be, you know, from, you know, a carnival worker to a 7-Eleven clerk to a garbage man. Like those are all like, everybody's got to have an interesting bit of, if you can really pull it out of them. When you're penciling, do you listen to music? No, if I'm not like live streaming and I'm drawing, it's usually not music. It's usually more another one you said there, like podcasts. Either comedy or true crime are both things that I can sort of veg out to. Either comedy or true crime are both things that I enjoy listening to and can sort of let my mind wander. Oh, that sounds like a priority. I can only draw while headbanging. That would be fun. That would be a fun challenge. I've intentionally been drawing a lot of War Machine with a technical pen with the thinking that like it's just going to, by its nature, give me very precise lines. But for Blade here, I was going to use mostly a brush pen because it'll give me a little bit more of an organic and rounded line. I don't know if it'll, you know, within my same style sort of produce a very different result or not. But I was putting some thought into what I'm grabbing for tools here. I don't have tons and tons of tools. You know what I want to experiment more with? Parallel pens. I sincerely want to experiment with parallel pens. I've just seen on Inkpulp, Jim and Sean Crystal like doing some really cool things with those here and there. At least I think I saw them both use them at one point. Anyway, I'd love to experiment with that. Dude, if you ever want to see like a really cool, mostly real life comic, Durf Backdurf is his pen name. He wrote Trashed. Durf Backdurf is probably most famous for his book My Friend Dahmer, because he actually went to high school with Jeffrey Dahmer, and so he made a comic about that and about Jeffrey Dahmer's life. But he also was a garbage man for a period of his life. And while the characters in the story are fictionalized, a lot of it is taken from his real life stories. And he talks not just about like what the day-to-day life is of a garbage man. He also gets into how different countries generate and deal with trash. It's really interesting, to be honest. There's a few European countries that basically have no choice but to have figured out how to burn their trash without creating real pollution. There's a depressing amount of waste created by a few countries, including mine, and some of it just gets dumped in the ocean. It's really crazy. But it's a really good book, Trashed by Durf Backdurf. I promise it's an interesting book. Yes, maybe that's what I saw. Some of their guests on Ink Pulp Live, because you're right. That Jorge Corona episode was fantastic. He's drawing Doctor Doom along with Jim and Sean, and he's using parallel pens. Boy, does he create some good stuff. Really? He had TV on? My uncle was a garbage man, and he was adamant that the worst things they saw were human corpses. Yeah, that would obviously be terrible to come across. My sympathies. But I understand how it could happen, too. That's crazy to think about. Think of that like gross sort of water that gathers in the bottom. Oh, I remember one specific part of the book. He said that like sometimes people would put like there's a way that they would not properly dispose of used baby diapers. And so like the compactor would like be pushing it down and boom, it would explode a bunch of like baby poop out the back. That was a somewhat common thing. You had to be careful when you use the trash compactor of what could explode out the back. Anyway, I really recommend it. It's a great book. It's funny, but educational too. Anybody else out there have any favorite nonfiction comics? I think another really good nonfiction comic is The Green River Killer. It was written by the guy whose father got the confession out of the Green River Killer. Great art by, I want to say, Jonathan Case. It was really cool. Here, I'll spell it. For Trashed, his name is Durf Backdurf. It's obviously a fictionalized name, but I'm going to post it and highlight it. Oh, I misspelled it. Hold on. No, that's what happens when I tried to type with one hand. Let me read. Durf Backdurf. Trashed. There. That's what I was talking about. To answer Daniel, who is asking about parallel pens are almost like a calligraphy pen, as in it's like got it's not just a point. How would I describe this? It's a small, it's not quite a brush either, but it's like a small wedge. So you could use it at an angle and use one of the points. You could put it down and draw like a thicker line. You could use it essentially sideways or at an angle, and you're going to get a thicker line. Chisel tip. Thank you. That was the term I was looking for. Chisel tip. Found Footage is a nonfiction comic. I'll keep that in mind. I love nonfiction comics. Huh. One superhero team in Marvel versus one superhero team, DC superhero team, not fighting but playing American gridiron football. Who takes home the Lombardi? Well, I could choose, because I could just say, I could choose a good DC team and a terrible Marvel team. I'll choose the worst lineup of the champions in the 70s versus an all-star Justice League team. But if we just like sort of played fair and just said a somewhat classic Avengers team versus a classic Justice League team, and they couldn't use superpowers and they just had to play football, I'm going to give the edge to the Avengers. I think that Captain America is a better tactician and leader than, say, Superman or even Batman, and that they work well as a team that complements one another as compared to just being powerhouses. So if you take the powers out of the equation, I think that the Justice League cares about each other, but doesn't necessarily complement each other as well. Fun question. Oh, by the way, NFL Super Pro showed up in the new Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man TV show. If you guys are checking that show out. Not as NFL Super Pro. Let me be clear. I was being slightly disingenuous with how I phrased it. But his real-life alter ego, Philip Grayfield, shows up as the coach at Peter Parker's high school. Philip Grayfield is the real name of NFL Super Pro. I thought that was a pretty fun deep pull for the show. Hi. I knew you'd show up. Lily just came to say hello, so if Lily shows up, pretty soon Jack will, and Jack is the louder of the two. So we'll see. They're going to want their food soon. But yeah, NFL Super Pro lives. Persepolis is a great comic. And also a good animated film. But I love the books, yeah. The X-Men would also work very well as a team. The X-Men might work better as a team than the Avengers for sports because the X-Men legit do play mostly baseball, but sometimes basketball, and I bet that they could play football. Even without powers. Actually, the X-Men might beat the Avengers in sports. Yeah. Oh, you're sweet. Thank you for the kindness. Yeah, he lost his NFL Super Pro job. Oh, I heard about that. I'll talk about that on Monday on the news. See, I'd say without powers, we get Bruce Banner as compared to Hulk. I don't know how you depower everybody to make it even. Like, I don't know how you do that. But yeah. It is interesting to give a little consideration to superhero teams and like who works the best as an actual team, communication wise, and complementing other teammates, like where they may have deficiencies by having another one with that as a strength. That's an interesting thing to consider. Because I think that, like, to make the comic interesting, if you've got like a regular cast, you have to have them likable. So realistically, they're probably getting along better than your average coworkers. I mean, think of the big personalities like all together. They would probably not work well together, but then you have to find elements of conflict. So you have to have these like big dramatic things of, I'm dating such and such, or, I used this forbidden crystal when you told me not to, and that's disrespectful. You used the forbidden crystal. How dare you? I'm really laughing thinking about teams getting really upset about somebody using a forbidden crystal now. Not the forbidden crystal. I don't even know what that is. Full power fight, Justice League versus Avengers. I mean, we got it. We got that. Justice League versus Avengers. Kurt Busiek, George Perez. It's a great comic. You kind of get to see who would win in a bunch of the stuff. It's great. Wait. I see. For making everybody even, you say have Leech, but I'm pretty sure Leech only cancels out mutant powers. I don't think, like, if you put him up next to Spider-Man or Wonder Woman or something, that he cancels out their powers. I think it's just mutants. Thank you for coming by. Appreciate it. I read the first issue, and then it was like sort of hit with some delays, so I fell behind. But I always appreciate Raphael Grandpa. I think he does some really cool stuff, very experimental in some ways, which just sounds fun to talk about somebody that like does mainstream work. But I admire everything I saw in it. It was creepy and cool, but again, I only read the first issue, and then I fell behind because of the delays. DC is in such a good place with the artists and writers that they have right now, and some of their books are my absolute favorites. I think both Wonder Woman and Absolute Wonder Woman are legit surprising me with how much I love them. But there's also good, like, Batman stuff and Superman stuff. And the only thing I'll say is, and I do think that overall they have the best artists. Like, if we're just weighing different publishers right now, pound for pound, DC has the best. But they've also had a lot of delays on various projects. Like, I love Batman Offworld, and that thing is like super delayed. All sorts of books that they've been fighting with delays on. Yeah. Imagine living in Spider-Man world and then finding Darkhawk's crystal and then have the moral dilemma of trying to get richer, be a one-off Spider-Man ally. I like Darkhawk. I just read him at the right time, so I like Darkhawk. I think, and I'm talking about Chris Powell. And I forget the name of the character, but there was a second Darkhawk more recently by Kyle Higgins. And it was really cool. I do recommend it. It's about like a guy who is in high school and is a basketball player, but also has a disease. I want to say it might have been MS. And it was interesting seeing somebody deal with that while having the ability to, if he wanted, and he has to make this decision, but like go into another body. And but it's just for superheroing. He can't just walk around as a healthy, ordinary guy. It was a really cool take on things. Calling all freaks. It's the name of the game. Wesley Snipes sure was cool as Blade. Not perfect movies, but for their time, especially the first two, were really good. Boy, if you ever want to hear funny stories, though, listen to anything Patton Oswalt has to say about being on the set of Blade Trinity, where Wesley Snipes just did not want to do it at the time and was being very difficult. And boy, Patton's a great storyteller no matter what. He's really funny, but his stories about the set of Blade Trinity are legit hilarious. I'm sure if you went on YouTube and just Googled Patton Oswalt Blade Trinity, of course you'd find some movie clips, but you should find some talk show guest appearances where he tells some pretty great stories. Isn't it wild to think that like Blade Trinity was a long time ago now, but that like almost everybody in there went on to have other superhero characters? Like the new cast, like, Patton Oswalt has played a bunch. I think the most recent probably would have been just Pip the Troll at the end of Eternals. But he's done tons of stuff. Of course, Ryan Reynolds went on to become Deadpool. Natasha Lyonne was just on What If, and then she's going to be in Fantastic Four First Steps. Anyway. I think that they actually wrote it because they were getting away with a lot of, sort of razzing Disney. But it was a good line. It is. It's a very physical role, but Wesley Snipes has always been a good martial artist. He's got some good action roles, even in movies that are only sometimes okay. But he's also a good serious actor. He really is. He's been in so many good things over the years. Wesley Snipes is a great actor. He really is. He's a great actor. And I'm trying to think if he's ever had a legit great role. He's had very, very good role, or maybe I should say he puts in a great performance in movies that are very, very good. I don't know if he's ever necessarily done like an Oscar level movie, but New Jack City or something like that, like or action roles like Passenger 57 and Rising Sun, like just so good, so good. More recently, he was really funny in that movie Eddie Murphy made about the life of the guy that played Dolomite, Rudy Ray Moore. That was so good. Oh, man. I didn't see that Brat Pack documentary yet. Is it good? I would be curious to see it. I mean, I'm old enough that, like, I grew up with the Brat Pack being a thing, and yeah. Oh yeah, White Men Can't Jump. That's right. And they say that I've seen behind the scenes, and they say that Woody Harrelson was the better basketball player, which I kind of believe. But obviously Wesley Snipes is very athletic, always has been. I would say a great role, and the movie I'd only call very, very good. I wouldn't call it like an exceptional movie, but it's very, very good. It's certainly entertaining. But yeah, like he was really good in it. Okay. See, I'd call like Raiders of the Lost Ark great. I'd call Casablanca great. I'd call New Jack City like really good. That's right. I forgot. He was Willie Mays Hayes in, was it just the first Major League movie? And then I think they recast that role, if I'm remembering. Yeah. I think U.S. Marshals. Yeah. Where he's going, like he was on the run, and the bad guy, should I spoil it? It was actually Robert Downey Jr. all along. That movie was a little bit of a comeback for Robert Downey Jr., who was like, he'd been having a lot of problems with drugs at the time. But I think that if he hadn't done well in U.S. Marshals, he probably never would have gotten Iron Man shortly after that. they probably would have had trouble insuring him. But he's kept things cleaned up for a long time now. Good for him. Do you guys have a favorite actor, someone that you'll basically see in any movie, like you'll give that a chance? I feel like I used to, but that those days have kind of passed. You know, there was a time where if Jackie Chan was in something, boy, would I see it. From like, the late 80s through maybe the early 2000s, really early 2000s. If Jackie Chan was in something, I would see it. Oh, thank you so much. I would really like to see that. Yeah, I got to see that. Oh, hey, Sigamegs. Nice to see you. That's nice to hear. Man, there, Ali Sheedy, she elevated some movies that I've gone back to, and the movies don't hold up that well. Like Short Circuit, I remember really enjoying as a kid. I remember thinking that St. Elmo's Fire was cool. And I've gone back and I'm like, not as good as I thought. But Ali Sheedy and a bunch of the other actors still elevating it. Oh, Daniel Day-Lewis, strong pick. I think you could argue he's the greatest living actor, at least for, film and television. No, not television, but for film. Yeah. Look, I'll say that Short Circuit is still a lot better than Short Circuit 2. Stephanie, turn color. I don't remember exactly the line. Johnny 5. Johnny, she says, and smiles the other way. Johnny. Here's Johnny. Did I just say here's Johnny? I meant who's Johnny? DeBarge. Humphrey Bogart. All right. Will Ferrell and Mike Myers. Will Ferrell was in a movie that went straight to Amazon Prime that they made. What was it called again? It was kind of funny. It wasn't bad. Something about weddings. I can't. You're invited, cordially invited, something like that. It wasn't bad. Oof, Mac and Me. That one's pretty bad. Robert Duvall, fantastic actor. Totally agree. Oh, yeah, Philip Seymour Hoffman never phoned it in. He always gave a really interesting performance. Oh, that's an interesting choice. But, Danny McBride is good. Huh. Yeah, I've watched the video for DeBarge's Who's Johnny a bunch. And, yeah, like, they get Ali Sheedy and they get what's his name that played like the jerk cop in it, but they couldn't get Gutenberg, so they just have a black and white cardboard cutout, And then for the robot, like it's clear that they had like no budget to do good puppetry, so it's always just like the hand coming from just off screen and like lifting something like that much. That's about all they can do. Oh, that's super late. Totally understand. Have a good night. I will see anything with Bill Murray. Yeah. I don't always prioritize it, but I will see anything with Bill Murray. He's great. Love Bill Murray. You can tell him I said that when you all hang out with him. Who's Johnny? He says, smiles the other way. Johnny, he says, you know I love you. Who's Johnny? Who's Johnny? Who's Johnny? No, I have to admit I don't know much about Devil May Cry. Sorry. Nirvana reunion? How does that work? Oh, Samuel Jackson. Great actor. I saw the new movie Wolfman a few days ago. It was okay because it had good performances and it was a good story, but ultimately I didn't love it. Um, it just needed to be either a little more scary or a little more thrilling. I was a little surprised because the director's last couple of movies, Upgrade and Invisible Man, were both really, really strong. But yeah, I can't give it a strong recommendation. Wolfman. It's okay if it was like on streaming or something, but I don't think I'd recommend making a point of going out to the movies to see it. Disappointing. Not bad, just disappointing. If that makes sense. Saw a bunch of movies on the flights to Hawaii and Japan and home and stuff. I'm trying to think of what stands out as memorable. Saturday night was actually more interesting than I expected it to be. That's about like the first night of Saturday Night Live going live. That was actually fairly interesting. What else was good? Saw The Watchers. I wouldn't call that very good. Saw Blink twice. That was only average. What was good? Well, Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. It's whatever. Sorry, I just realized I keep pushing the artwork down closer to me. I'm sorry, folks. What was good for movies? I know I saw some that I liked. What else did I see? Now I'm forgetting. Hold on. I texted my friend what I saw. So I'm just going to look at my list to see if there was anything that I really liked. Was there anything I really liked? Because I want to... Oh, there we go. Oh, American Fiction was pretty good. That was good. And Iron Claw. Iron Claw was good, but sad. Best thing I ate. Yeah, in Hawaii, when I hung out with David Nakayama, he took me to a restaurant that did Korean barbecue Hawaiian style. So it was a blend or a fusion of Korean barbecue and Hawaiian, and that was really, really good. We got several different dishes, and that was a blast. That was really good food. So thank you, David. Help make it all memorable, you know? In Japan, I wouldn't say that I got to experience anything exceptional because I was always by myself. We didn't get to, Chrissy was sick, so I didn't get to go out to like a nice restaurant. I just kept putting it off. I didn't want to go by myself, and I wanted to get home and or back to the hotel. I mean, and help her. So nothing bad, but I just for food, but I just can't think of anything that I would go like, what was a great meal this time was blah blah blah. So that was tough. And it'll be frustrating to sort of recuperate from the bills because, health insurance should probably cover the medical bill in Japan, but I don't think it's going to cover the flights that we had to get to come home. And now Chrissy's back in the hospital here. And I think that, since it's a new year, we're going to have to cover our out-of-pocket deductible, which for so much healthcare, I could easily see that being I'm not kidding, that might end up being $15,000 for the out-of-pocket deductible for the year for healthcare. She's got full health insurance, but I think that you have to pay something really big like that. And then, so I'm expecting us to be out of pocket anywhere between $15,000 to $20,000. It's gonna hurt. It's not gonna be a fun start to the year, which means I don't know when we'll be able to afford to go on a vacation together next, which is frustrating because it's not our fault. Sometimes these things just happen. It's nobody's fault. Let's see. She's doing okay. I don't know if she's still watching. She might be too tired. She's still in the hospital, but she was moved out of critical care. So that's good. In Hawaii, I think that they just understand that Spam tastes good. I think it became popular when we started having our various service members get set up there in the 40s and stuff. Yeah. Yeah, it's a tough start. It's a tough start to this year thinking about all these bills that we're going to have. I don't know how we're going to handle it. So, I might be selling some original art or something like that. I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Whatevs. Whatevs. I'm tired, but okay. Maybe I don't know. I don't know what I was going to say. Back to work tomorrow, and then Monday I'll do a live stream for all of you talking about the latest comics and comic book news. I think that should be fun. And yeah, just getting back to normal, working on comic tropes. Just try to, I guess, focus on creating episodes that are likely to get good views, because could use the money now. Yeah. In fact, the day before we left on our trip, she sold a painting in her gallery. So yeah. I can't take on any additional commissions right now. I just don't have the time, since I'm trying to get a comic book made in addition to doing my day job and the various YouTube stuff. It's been starting at a minimum of things like, one character would be like $100, but it also sort of depends on the amount of time it takes. So, yeah, I might have to find a way to fit in commissions to pay the bills, but we'll see. We're going to first need to see exactly what this costs. And then I'll see if I need to just give up sleep and stuff to make some more money. Money. That money stuff is popular, isn't it? Seems like everybody likes it. And they love sharing it. That's what's nice. Excuse me. How rude. I am so sorry you had to hear something like that. All right. I think I'm going to call it for inking, but tell you what, before I leave, I'll just open the last few gachapons that I had in here. Here's one I got from my nephew because his favorite Pokemon is Magikarp, and I found this Pokemon, so got him that. This one I just got because it's hilarious to me. This is a cat butt, and you put it in your ear, so it sort of hangs from your ear like, I don't know, jewelry or something. But all it is a cat butt. It's me, man. This one's some sort of maybe Oni or at least a Kami type spirit. He's cute. Ooh, this one is the lucky secret color for, I think that's Imeji Castle. And I got the super rare one there. So lucky me. What else? What else? Oh, I think I said, David Bowie is... Oh, that's not David Bowie's pin. Okay. That's just a pin I actually bought because I thought it was cool. It was the U.S. and Japanese flag. But I thought I had a David Bowie one in here. I do. This was a Gachapon machine. They just had nothing but David Bowie album covers, and this was the one that I got. Which one was this? Ours, I want to say? This is like either 99 or 2002 or somewhere around there. Was there anything else? This one's not awesome. It's just like a fidget toy. Yeah, it doesn't really do anything. You can just push these in and fidget with it. It looked cooler, but then when I started playing with it, I was like, okay, that's not a lot. I think that's it. Oh wait, there's one more. Forget what this is. I can't remember. Oh yeah, this one's cool. All right, this is a good one. This is a Showa era vending machine for food, and the buttons and stuff work. You can literally put in these tiny like hamburgers and things like that into this, and you can push this and it can drop out the slot. That's pretty cool. So that's just a vintage jihonki is what they call it. Vending machine. Jihonki. That's fun. Yeah. I like that one. I like this little castle. It's gold. I like the David Bowie pin. I'm glad that I got that for my nephew. I don't know what I'm going to do with this cat butt. Sell it for $100. Got to get batteries so that I can listen to train station sounds. Crayon keychain for Chrissy. Gamera with rocket feet. He flies backwards, spins. A Honda Beat. Very cool car if you want to look it up. Fisher Price phone keychain. Some Marvel superheroes in super miniature. And the Game of Life with a little car icon. So, got a few silly Gachapons. Oh yeah, and of course, the various Godzillas that I can put together. What's for dinner? I am going to run over to the grocery store and get myself a salad. I'm going to be good and have a salad tonight, but I don't have that here, so I need to go out. That's fun. And then get up early tomorrow for work. You didn't miss a lot. I was just sort of doodling with some pens that I picked up in Japan that were fun. I can't wait to use this. Now, what's cool about this, folks, is this is like a white pen, but it isn't like I usually can use stuff like this, right? This is like a correcting pen, and it's got a fairly fine nib. But this is actual pigment, white pigment. So that's even more fine. Pigment ink, Color Master. That's pretty fun, I think, to use at some point when I decide to give like some white streaks to something. Like this is good for like actually like potentially, you know, and I've used it for like rain and stuff like that. But this would be even better. I'm excited to use that, but I just didn't have an excuse tonight. I really appreciate that you guys came here tonight. It was nice to catch up, share what's going on. You know, not all like happy here, but overall, like things could be a lot worse. So things are good. You know, Chrissy is stable, and we are moving forward. She's still in the hospital. Just hopefully we'll get some answers before we go too far. And it's back to my normal routine. My job, my YouTube, and working on this comic that I am excited about. I need to like approach some artists and see if they're available for working with me, collabing. Thank you, Winston. Very kind of you. Thank you very much. Hey, it's always archived here. If you're curious, you can like watch it in a Double Speed, for instance. Cat Butt in Your Ear. That would be a good punk band. Thank you all. Oh, yeah, sure. So I did get a couple cool things in Japan. I didn't bring them all here. I got a few action figures. I also got a few shirts. I got a Peach Momoko shirt for El Desperado in New Japan Pro Wrestling. She painted a shirt for him, and I found one in my size. I got a Godzilla shirt at the Godzilla store, and this I got at a high-end streetwear store. This is a one-of-a-kind. This artist will just paint one off that shirt. So this was kind of expensive. And then they put on patches for there's a Godzilla patch. There's a patch here that say mistakes make people. And it's a King Ghidorah, and it just says, I'm King Ghidorah. I just liked it. And it's a really good quality. I love it. This is my favorite thing maybe that I picked up there. So anyway, thank you for all the kind words. It means a lot to me. And I'll have Comic Tropes ready within I think a week. So take care, everybody. What's this? A double salute just at the beginning and at the end? Apparently so. You just got it. You're welcome. I hope you all have a good evening or morning if it's your time or whenever you're watching this. I hope you're doing well. I like all of you. You all make this worth doing. So thank you all for everything, and I will talk to you very soon. I'm taking quite an extended goodbye here, aren't I? All right. Take care. Bye.